Lucy and Jessica will be doing a weekly college football segment with us, and I do want to talk to them about some of the things going on this weekend because Lucy's a crazy person.
Thank you.
But I wanted to start with Mike Ryan because I felt for Mike Ryan this weekend, not just because, for a game at least, he was loud wrong, but also the unpleasantness of being on the wrong side in sports of something that other people seem to be enjoying. The Deion Sanders story at Colorado, it's not just that Deion paid for himself on day one. Did you guys see the number that Colorado Texas A&M did as a rating? That is not a good time slot. It's only a good time slot for sports. Saturday at noon doesn't get $7.2 million people.
That's crazy for TCU Colorado. Crazy.
7.2 million people represent more than any other football game got on television that day. It represents the biggest number that Big Noon Saturday has ever gotten. And I wanted to ask you, Mike, because there are plenty of people who have now, for reasons that I'm unclear on, it may just be because Deion is a loudmouth and, for better or worse, polarizing is good for television, but is going to get people on the other side. Not everyone's going to celebrate this. But you think you're very worried for America's kids, America's students, because Deion is doing things.
I was wondering where you were going to go with this.
Differently. Well, I could go anywhere, though, because you were very publicly against them being any good. And at the very least, no matter whether TCU is a fraud or not this year, they're going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
And offensively, they're going to be competent.
Yeah, I think they'll be able – I think they've proven that they're going to move the ball. Now, I don't think they're going to move the ball to the tune of 500 passing yards and forcing 22 missed tackles from the other team against a team that was, even though a national runner-up, a disaster defensively. I understand why I'm being positioned as that, because I was the only person on this show to be like, hey, this is new and it's unconventional and they're a bad team. So if that makes me a hater, that makes me a hater. I'm also the only person on this show that's actually donated to Deion Sanders and his school prior to. So I don't know how it can be
You
both.
don't know that.
A lot
you
of
have my
Jackson
tax
State.
returns?
All right.
We've
But
known each other like
You were loud, Mike. You were loud that they were going to be bad.
no, I wasn't loud that they were going to be bad. I was loud in that I don't think that he deserves to be paid more than Kyle Whittingham. And you're always a subscriber to the chaos theory, and I understand why Deion works for you. I'm skeptical. I think it's right. I was rightfully skeptical. And this, who could have foreseen that? It's already a hugely successful year. I think it's a huge overreaction to beating a TCU team that might very well end up being bad. I mean, when you
but no, hold on a minute. However bad they will not be as bad as Colorado was last year.
No, Colorado, they're so much better. Colorado was, for the last few years, outside of one Mel Tucker year, they were really bad. It's already a smashing success. But I also think it's a bit of an overreaction. I think both things can be true, and you can have an overreaction to week one. I think I saw a stat from DraftKings Sportsbook that 97% of the betting public is on Colorado this week against Nebraska, and it's only a 3-point line. And I think that game's probably the most fascinating of the weekend to me, because if Matt Rhule and Nebraska fall to 0-2, that's incredible.
It's wild to call that the most fascinating game of the weekend when El Assico is this week.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I love Mike being like, Kyle Whittingham should make more money than Deion freaking Sanders, who's like independently famous if he had never touched a football ever again past the age of like 35. You get paid more when you're super famous. That's that's how it works. Doesn't matter if you're a better coach or not.
Okay.
I think a part that's interesting with Deion.
He's Deion Sanders.
David Sampson?
No,
Did he just show up?
It's fair. I noticed what was happening during that game. It's like, I'm going to be called the hater for just saying I think that this is without precedent and something far more likely to not work out than it did. And after one game, I'm willing to come to you hat in hand and say, yeah, I was wrong. It's going way better than I thought. I never thought in a million years they'd upset
But what's the
TCU.
But what's the overreaction to that, though, right? Because I don't think anyone is making the conclusion, oh, they're going to win the championship. They're going to be 9-3. I don't think people are making those leaps. I think they're saying, holy shit, that surprised us. Wow, that's surprising. And 7.2 million people watched it because they added this element of fame. Because it doesn't have to just be somebody who's X's and O's. These guys are all figureheads for their universities. They are all fundraisers for their athletic departments and for their schools and for their libraries. They are all prestige grabbers for your institution. So what is the overreaction to, oh, biggest rating Big Noon has ever gotten? What is the overreaction to, nobody played a college football game this weekend on television that drew bigger numbers than people wanting to see, hey, what's Deion got going on over there?
I'd say as far as Colorado, they're better than I thought they were going to be this year. But my major question surrounding Deion in that position is what'll happen when Coach Prime gets dealt with adversity? What will happen when they go on a 2-game losing skid? And I don't think that's necessarily something that's talked about right now because they just beat the national runner-up and everything's amazing and they're going to throw for 500 yards every game.
What will happen, though, Mike, is content. Like, he is a fountain of content. He's got Coach Prime on Amazon Video. Everything he's doing is videotaped. He is culturally relevant in his 50s in some of the same ways he was in his athletic prime. To me, those are... He makes... He makes Colorado matter by virtue of standing on their sideline.
Yeah, they matter. They matter. They matter, and he does make them matter, and he made them
winning.
matter before he got there.
But that's winning.
No, winning is winning. I think winning is winning.
That is also important, but after one game, what he's given you is both. He's given you winning you didn't expect, and he's given you winning that pays for his entire contract, pays for all of it. He is now underpaid, Mike. He's underpaid.
See, that always gets me because no, he's not.
Mike, they got $28 million in donations because he signed up.
Yeah, that's what they say, yes. And he still has a lot of challenges coming his way that he articulated in terms of resources. And hopefully, I liked it when Colorado was good. I think it's good for college football. And like I said, I've donated to Deion Sanders in the past. I am also personalizing this because, man, if they're good, it's going to be really hard for the program that I back specifically. That is a monster to deal with. And I know that he carries himself unconventionally. He carries himself like Deion Sanders. There's a lot of bravado there. He does a lot of things that even in the murky world of college football is kind of looked down on. Hell, there was video of him going up to what I've been told is projected to be a first-round draft pick at corner, that kid Newton, going up to him right after the game, and I see a lot of potential in you. I mean, I've heard that he's FaceTiming with players in opposing locker rooms. Like, he goes about things a very different way. And if he has that program cooking, like after 1 week, it certainly looks like they're well on their way, they're going to be really difficult to deal with. Really difficult.
I think that it's fair to wait for more data before we decide like how good this team actually is. But I also think you have to give the man credit, which I'm not saying you're not doing, but like I doubted Colorado. I thought after turning over your entire roster and taking over a team that was 1-11 last year, it would be really difficult to win big games. They've already won a game that I thought they would lose. They were 20-point underdogs. A lot of people thought they were going to lose that game. And now you look at the rest of the schedule, and if they play the way they did against TCU, there's a lot more wins in the win column than you thought before the season started. So, yeah, I think he gets credit, and I think also we will wait and see because preseason rankings don't really matter. They don't mean anything in college football. There's no preseason. We don't know how good any team is, especially in the portal era. And it's not until like week 5 or 6 when you start having teams play in the conference and play against other teams in the conference and compare and contrast results that you can actually determine how good a team really is. And even then, no one agrees on anything in college football. That's what makes the sport fun, is that we get to argue for hours on end about has Colorado played anybody yet?
It's
they
such
haven't
a great
played anybody.
It's such a great sport in that respect too, because I can come into it with a certain amount of backstory and knowledge that I think could apply to what I think their season's going to be when it comes to forecasting, and I could be totally wrong, as I was spectacularly wrong against TCU. But at the same time, I look at that D-line, see a lot of tiny bodies. I see a team that once they get into the war of attrition that is a college football season, is not very deep. And I don't think that they're this to rank them 22nd when you consider what their preseason ranking might have been, which is at the bottom of FBS, with one performance where you took a historically bad defense and beat them up, and they played so poorly. They're bad, and on top of that, they played poorly. I think it's a huge overreaction, but at the same time, I understand why the layperson is just like, yeah, that's why you go get Coach Prime.
This is the part that I don't get, though. If it's the biggest win in the last 30 years of the program, 20 years of the program, whatever it is you want to measure it by, when Jessica says he's getting too much credit, or you're saying overreaction, my question to you and the audience is...
I didn't say that.
You did. You just got...
No, I said Mike was saying that. I did not say... I said he should get a lot of credit.
Okay.
Just to clear the air.
I thought that you were making...
The Colorado fans are loud.
I don't understand why we don't agree on what the proper amount of credit.
Stugotz said that yesterday. That's who you're thinking of.
Should
I'm
be.
Stugotz. He's Stugotz.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it because I was going to say it as soon as you said it because you may have been framing it on behalf of Mike. My objection remains,
I'll do
though.
the Amin voice next time.
What is the proper reaction? What is the proper amount of respect? Because I think you're allowed to hyperventilate on the biggest number. And the biggest number...
I don't think you should hyperventilate. I think hyperventilation is an overreaction. I'm just saying I'm skeptical because the Coach Prime brand is built on the things that we saw on Saturday. And if he loses to Nebraska, where are we going to be pointing fingers at?
They matter. A game against Nebraska featuring Colorado matters. It doesn't matter whether they win or lose it.